all you got to do. All right, this is Nottoway County Board of Supervisors, June 12th work session. We're meeting at the EOC. Welcome everyone. I'll say a prayer for us. Please, Lord, help us make good decisions for our citizens as we make decisions for the economy, for the squads, and for the fire departments. Please know that our taxpayers know that we care for them, even though we had to raise those taxes. We're doing our best. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Rise for a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so this is one of the things that we're trying to do for economic development, and that's the land out by the airport that we recently cut the timber on. We want to dedicate that to aviation businesses. So Greg's been working on a zoning, kind of an airport overlay, to direct businesses to that location, that 83 or 84 acres. We're working with Blackstone, we're working with the Department of Aviation. We want to have kind of a dedicated aviation business zone. We think it's an opportunity. So Greg?
Okay, thank you. Basically what I did, Mr. Collins and I chatted about this, I think earlier this week, or maybe it was on Friday.
This is a work in progress. This is the first time,
Right.
This is the first time I've seen it.
So what this is, first I figured let's just go with the airport zone. That would include the Blackstone and Barfoot Airport, as well as Pickett, thank you. Now, yeah. And now, and including the kind of crew, because their airport's home county property.
Okay. So we put the airport zoning on both.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what this track is.
Great.
And Philip was supposed to be here tonight, but what I did was, if you turn to page 2 of this document, I listed the things that Philip and I talked about. What would be permitted within the district, and we'd have to rezone some property, are obviously airports, vertiports, and I do have a definition for that I can incorporate into the definitions, 6.1 of our zoning ordinance. Aviation-related research and development, aviation manufacturing and assembly, aviation training for manned and unmanned aircraft, facilities for refueling aircraft, airport terminals, aircraft charter service, police, fire, rescue squad stations as accessory uses to the airport. And then the last two are businesses compatible with an airport environment, including but not necessarily limited to motor vehicle parking, travel accommodation services, motor vehicle rental services, gasoline, retail outlets, lodging, hospitality services, and restaurants. So I figured we might want to scale back the part on restaurants and lodging, since we're trying to promote Blackstone and cruise economies.
I would agree with that. We want them to use the existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all, we're all in agreement? Okay.
Yeah.
So hospitality, lodging, and restaurants.
Yeah.
I'll strike those. Okay, and then the last thing would be offices. That district, and accessory uses on the next page, top 2-10-3. Accessory uses customary and clearly incidental to a permitted use, and which will not create a nuisance or hazard, shall be permitted in airport districts, subject to the applicable provisions of Article 3, Division 3 of this chapter. And that's what I've attached. That's the part. Start on page 6 or so. Or wait, no. I included a section that includes my revisions to the existing airport safety overlay, and I took this directly from the Code of Virginia. I felt it was relevant for us, and I do need to include. I did include the town of Crew in this draft, and that's on like the 7 pages stuff. Then I need to let the planning commission review it as well, but it's basically a standard you know, it's something I personally would recommend we might want to pick and choose the parcels we want. If it's just going to be that one, where they did the timber, or if we want to look at other ones. And I wanted to put that before y'all, how we want to approach this.
Well, I know we want to do that, the one that we've just timbered, because it's
Right.
right adjacent to the fence.
And, yeah,
Do we have anything else that's adjacent?
I didn't know if the existing
We
uses.
we got to cross the highway, cross 40.
That's true. That's true, though, that's that 100, the size of that one. But there's that one, and I don't know if we want to put something on top of what UAV Pro's using now, and their uses seem like.
Well, their use is compatible with, so I would say that and Textron UAV Pro, that gets included.
Right.
And we'll just stop there and just see, the meeting that we had. There are people that call wondering what's going on out there. Is there space available? Can we come? So it would hope that we'd get some prospects pretty quickly if we make it like this. The nice thing about this is they don't have to ask for that permit. It's used by right. So they can come here and say, here's my business. They don't have to go through a month of planning. They don't have to come see us. They can just say, okay, I want to buy 3 or 4 acres, 5 acres right here,
And that would be.
and be ready to start the business.
And who will enforce this document, right?
This is great.
I'm just concerned about the safety issues it's talking about.
Well, and that's the companion piece of this ordinance, is that this is a lot more specific than what we currently have. What we currently have is that first paragraph. But it references the county code, so I think we probably ought to look at also amending our county code to include this revision. That's all I have for this.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Zodi?
Bill, I'd like to say something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um,
I forgot to tell the citizens, Steve's on the phone tonight. He's at home. He's a little under the weather.
Yeah, that, you know, you tell him I'm trying to get work to a kid that's done with a host anyway. But, yeah, one thing that I want the board to really truly realize, and I think that I've had a conversation, I might have had it with John Roy a while back. We have land, but we do not have an industrial park. You know, if you really think about it, we have land, we don't have an industrial park. And so one of the maybe possibilities that we were looking at making some changes right there, we might want to look at maybe applying for some tobacco money or something to take that 60-some acres and put a road in there and make it look like industrial park. Somebody comes in, and it don't have to be it can be anything out of a defense contractor or somebody. There's a lot of opportunities we can do right in that area, I think. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. The town of Blackstone owns the airport, so they're able to apply to the Department of Aviation for funding for things like popping stumps, clearing ground, put in a sediment pond. So they're able, that's why they're going to partner with us, because we as a county can't apply, but the owner of the airport can apply. When we talked with the Department of Aviation, it was inquired about whether or not they would fund the whole purchase over to Blackstone, since Blackstone's over there. They did not want to do that, but they would fund a 5-acre project. If Dickie comes to me and says, hey, I've got this aviation business and I'd like to get here, would you be willing to help me with the land? Nottoway County would. Blackstone can apply to the Department of Aviation for whatever we tell him to. He's buying 5 acres, we want 50 grand. So then the 50 would come to Nottoway. And then if the town wanted to help the business owner, then they could. And that was with grant. It wasn't from the taxpayers or Blackstone taxpayers, Nottoway County taxpayers.
Okay.
So it's some moving parts there, but I think there's some opportunity.
It's putting us in a position to be able to progress and provide economic growth. We have to
Alternative
have this
revenue.
document. Yes.
Okay, and is this something we should discuss at Joel's 26th meeting, or would you like me to bring a draft to the planning?
Go ahead and do a draft to the planning commission
Okay,
and see what ideas they have.
okay,
Just see how far we get this first round.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And then Mr. Zodi, rezoning solar application.
Yes, sir. There was an applicant who came in, he lives on Inverness Road. Brought
Do
in
you have any documentation of it?
No, sir.
Okay.
But when I was reviewing his application, I double checked the zoning, and the zoning is rural residential on the east side of Berkeley. And I told the applicant that you can't proceed. He goes, but I've got an easement on this property. I go, that doesn't matter. The zoning does not allow for solar. Rural residential does not. I went back to 1995 and the zoning ordinances. I could not find where it changed because the two people who called me about the rezoning, in favor of the rezoning, mind you, said it's always been a farm. And so I'm kind of, my position, and I'll be very transparent with you all, is this has been in ag use for over a century. It's not more than that.
More than that.
Way more.
Right. But not to be.
I would guess,
conservative.
I would guess just because of its location adjacent to a town
Mhm.
is, when we apply the zoning ordinance.
Exactly, and generally, that's what's the right thing to do, is because our comprehensive plan says in several places, we should focus our development around towns with infrastructure.
Right.
And we turned down somebody, not too long ago, the planning commission did, because we wanted to have things closer to the towns for residents.
It was a duplex.
That's right. And so I said, you have to go through this process, and it's delayed his application, but I thought, we had a discussion, several discussions, in the fact that there's no way around this. You have to go for a rezoning. You cannot apply for a special exception for solar operation without the proper zoning. You have to do that. And I thought he had two easements, but it's basically a historic easement on the property.
That's right.
Agnew Farm. Yep. But I went out and I did my site visit.
Have you read the easements?
I've got them in here, yes. I went over there to, you get several different figures in there, about 316 acres, 314.
Right, but what about anything
The
about
easement
solar
itself.
panel?
No, that's something that the applicant has said, that he's already spoken to the National Historic Trust. So let's just say he got the rezoning approved and then he applied for the special exception, he got that approved. He still has to go through the National Trust.
He told me that he had done that, but I have no evidence of that.
And that's
I
up
don't
to,
know.
if we get to that point. But I just want to let you all know that's what's going on right now. That's the only thing I had on solar. But Miss Billy reached out to me and I said we have two, because at first my normal practice was say I can't discuss something until it's publicly notified. But I reached out to the FOIA Council with the Commonwealth, and they were like, no, if somebody asks for anything I have, I guess except for certain documents,
Yeah, you're not human resources,
right, and I have to provide that information.
right, and you're not HIPAA, so.
Right, and so I forgot all about reaching out to Billy on Monday. He reached out to me and I said, here's the two pieces. The two applications, and this applicant that we're speaking about right now is looking at 40 acres or less in the southeastern part of the parcel, which abuts the people who called me, and they're fine with it. They said, is this going to lower my taxes after a while? I said, I can't say that. Yeah, generally though, when you have other.
You can say that there's
sources of
another source, it's another source of revenue.
and they see that, and that's what they said. But
How many applicants have you had? Applications? Only two yet.
I
How many
honestly,
acres was the first? Second?
the second one is going to be 30 acres under panel, and the first one will probably be 40 acres under panel, maybe a little bit less. But the second one, that's 30 acres, will generate approximately 3 megawatts, and the one on Inverness will generate close to 5. And he was really, when he was creating his application.
Is this the landowner who's doing the application process?
Yes, sir. He worked with other groups.
So he's not putting the whole 300 under.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. Only 40 acres. And that's,
When I spoke to him, he wanted the buffer closer to Lewiston Plank Road. And I said, he said, well, you're not gonna be able to see it. I'm thinking to myself, I drive Lewis Plank all the time. You're gonna be able to see it.
Well, that's right, and that's one of my concerns, and I expressed that to him. And I said, my thinking now is, if the rezone is approved, then I will ask him if I can go on his, have him or his wife.
I'll go ahead and give it, I'll see if I can get a legal opinion here. A historic use without, I believe it's something stopping for 3 years, is a grandfathered use anyway, prior to zoning.
2
2 years?
Yes, sir.
So 2 years?
2 years.
So it's been agricultural, it's been farming. They've never stopped farming. You can zone something all you want, but as long as they don't stop what they're doing, they can still do it. To rezone it to meet our paperwork is what we're doing. I understand why he doesn't like that.
Same here,
The
man.
only thing you can do is go back and change the solar. We don't do that because we don't want the panels.
And we don't
Close
want
down.
to see it all around the town. And assistant town manager, he and I emailed back and forth yesterday. He was just asking about what he needs to do. And I said, well, you're more than welcome to attend a public hearing on the 17th or write me a letter and I'll share that with the members. But they're aware, the town's
It's
aware.
been a lot of grit being sold in the last 2 weeks
Yes,
from the federal government.
a lot of change.
Like China putting stuff in it to potentially affect our grid. To Trump shutting it down. I told him I didn't believe it till I seen it come anyway. With this new administration, they're not all that hipped up on this go green.
But we'll see.
We will see. We shall see.
That's all I want. I
That's
just
all on that
keep
one?
going forward.
Okay?
Okay, and y'all are okay, I'll take my leave.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good evening.
I wish I was in your position.
Huh?
Leave that
All right, Mr. Bowles, building official, for building permit fee increase. That's your topic.
Yes, sir. So during the budget proposal, I had proposed that we take my permit technician, Melissa, off of the administrative line and put it on the building department's budget as a way to save costs to the general public. And folks who would be using the service would pay for that service through permit fees. We're allowed to charge permit fees to cover the cost of our operations, and I felt that it would be appropriate to raise permit fees to cover that while saving the taxpayers a little bit of money. It's kind of some wash, but they're the ones using it. But
Is that you said it's similar to what we're gonna try to mirror adjoining counties?
so I've taken pieces and parts of some of the surrounding counties, and I've tried to match as close to what they're doing. One of the biggest changes is starting to go to a individual permit versus the universal permit that we do right now. The reason for that would be there is a concern about unlicensed contractors. I've had a lot of contractors come to me and say that they're being underbid and undercut on their prices because if they don't have the overhead for maintaining licensure and doing everything that they're supposed to do, they'll lose out on work. So,
Well, that's certainly part of your job. Make sure that the business is doing it right to compete.
this would be a way to monitor that.
There's no way currently to monitor whether they've got a license to be a carpenter or not, the county.
So we do, but doing it with the universal permit, it's hard to track that.
Universal meaning like, say for renovation, it would be plumbing, electrical.
So the GC would be allowed, or the business owner, the homeowner, whoever would be allowed to pull a permit. And the permit applicant, let's say for a residential permit, they're allowed to do their own work.
Right.
So just requesting that they provide for all the individual permits that they are contractors. We're asking for that.
And it's always been like that. That the
It has.
homeowner can do it themselves. But they couldn't just get a fly-by-night jackknife and do it, it's not a license. They're not supposed to.
Well, that's
Otherwise,
the
they're
thing.
not doing it themselves.
They're allowed to sign a owner's affidavit saying that they're doing work, and if they hire somebody to do it, D4 doesn't really say a whole lot about that.
Okay.
So, it's kind of, they're allowed to do it, and buyer beware.
So if it's still a specific permit such as the plumbing, that homeowner would still have the right to say, I'm doing this myself. Yeah. So
What about businesses, Nick?
So with a business,
Say I want to renovate my store or my place of business. Can I do that myself?
so if you're a licensed contractor, you can. If you wanted to pull the permit, the way that the building code is written, it states that pretty much anybody can pull the permit. But it's just, in order to issue the permit, one of the prerequisites to issuance of the permit is that we're provided information that properly licensed people are doing the work. So anybody can pull the permit, but who does the work has to be licensed through D4 regs.
license through what?
D4's regulations.
Okay.
Give us an acronym.
Department of Professional Occupation Regulations.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you're saying Bo wants to build something on his farm and get a building permit, but he can't build it because he's not licensed.
So if it was a single family dwelling,
I could build my own dwelling
that's right.
if I choose to do so, absolutely. Yeah.
How about a barn?
Because we have a lot of people that
Well,
are
I think
talented.
the barn-
they're
You
not-
know, agriculture gets funny.
The barn doesn't
Anyway.
even require building. It's agriculture use.
So if you get an agricultural building, most bets are off.
I just don't want people to hear this in the general public and go running out tattling on their neighbors that, oh, he's building something.
He
And-
can, he can, and I think he's got legally the right to hire a 1099 person to help him. As long as he's there doing it himself with the person.
As far as for a farm,
No, I mean a house. If I want to put a new roof on my house and I hire a fellow across the street and say, hey, come over here and help me. I'm gonna give you $500 to help me for these 2 days. And I've got a agreement with him. He's working for himself. He's a contract 1099 and he's just lending me a hand. Now, if I get him to do it and he's unlicensed, then that's a different story.
but again, the homeowner can be their own GC. So if that's what they'd like to do, we ask them to sign an affidavit. And I mean, legally, it's kind of waste paper,
So you just wanted,
but it's still just. a
but you
way
want
for
the
us.
county to understand what and who is going on that construction site.
That's right. We're trying to be a little bit more thorough.
So if I've gone and bid that roof and I'm not licensed or insured, and then Bo, who is licensed and insured, he goes and bids, I want to get it,
Because usually they would be a lot
because I don't
cheaper.
have it, I don't
You don't
have
have
it spent.
reckless comp and all that good stuff.
I see this all the time.
I'm sure.
We run into this all the
And
time.
there's not much you can do about it.
Well, you can report them to deep.
Well, you're looking for honest,
Yeah,
but you're also looking for honest homeowner.
Yeah.
right. I
Well, you
mean,
don't
where you,
want people building something and then something happens to it and they try to claim insurance and they weren't licensed. So
I had one a couple of years ago where they used another GC's, put his license on the permit, and they did it, and a year later,
what we normally see is like a Class C contractor who's doing $80,000 worth of work to a home, and I think Class C, I think the cap is 10,000, if I remember correctly.
Might be 15.
Yeah, but it's low. They'll come in and they'll bid on a job and they'll do 80,000 worth of work, and then where we see it is all of a sudden they botched it. And the homeowner's upset, and we run into that all the time.
and does the homeowner then have, they've knowingly done it, they've knowingly hired a Class C.
For the homeowner, it's no different than it would be if they were a general contractor. It's the same thing. You botch my job, I've got
Okay.
damages, I'm gonna sue you.
So there's
But
nothing-
the issue with the contractor is you're reporting to D4 and
Then they
Like
might lose,
D4.
they might lose their,
That's
Yeah.
only if they're licensed, but D4 doesn't regulate unlicensed
That's right, yeah.
contractors, so there's no recourse.
Or unlicensed at all.
Yep, it just would have to be a civil matter. And so that's.
what, everybody's interested in doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if we, let me clarify this. If we do that from the overall permit to specific permit, the homeowner can still apply for, as you call it, police permit themselves.
That's right.
Okay. So they're gonna be hit with more permit fees?
So the fees will go up. I have a breakdown.
You got one in here.
Yeah, and basically the idea is to try to be fair if we're going this way. We had done for the individual trades, it was $60 for the base fee and then a price per $1,000 worth of work. The idea would have been to take that up to 1% of the contract price, which would be 10 per 1,000. But instead of doing that, just changing the permit fee to still raise it, but just making a flat fee of $100. And that way it might be easier to budget for the contractors. So if they have an estimate of how many permits they'll pull a year, they just have a flat $100 versus trying to get down to the minutia of doing another route. Some of the other localities, what they're doing is just a price per square foot, but I don't see how I could fairly say that if you're changing a panel, do we charge you per square foot for the whole house? So it didn't really make sense. So Amelia County does a flat fee for their trade permits, and I don't know if that's a fair way to do it.
So here you got you got $100 base. This is new construction. 3 trades. That means you get 3 trades. Is that right?
So if you were to do plumbing, electrical, mechanical, that would be $100 per trade.
Okay.
And multiply that by 3 trades. And so we had 30 new homes, new single family
Well,
dwellings.
that was your example. I got you.
And so if we were to stay in line with that, if we keep that, it would be about $9,000 in new permit fees.
I see. Okay. All right.
So this is pretty basic, rough math. The biggest place where we might lose revenue is going from renovations being the price per 1,000 to square footage. The way that D4 is advocating that we remodel buildings, renovate buildings, that kind of falls more in line with them, but it is a bit of a loss. You have to have a pretty good size, like a commercial building, to balance out the square footage, like the Walmart that was just done. It would take something of that magnitude to balance out the price per square footage versus the price per 1,000.
So are you proposing keeping it the price per 1,000 or changing it to the square footage?
I think that that's going to be a decision that I guess presenting it in this work session is something to talk about. That's actually one of the things that I would like to talk about. Is it was $180 for a base fee, and then it was $6 per 1,000. And one of the things that we could have done is lower the price from 180 to another figure for the base, something that's fair, and then just going up to 1%, which would be the 10 per 1,000. If we stick with the same as a residential new permit, so like a new start, it's $150. So we're still lowering the 180 to $30 savings, but then go up to 1% of the contract. You'd still raise the permit fee substantially, but I just didn't see if we go from that model back to what a new residential building would be. I feel like we'd be targeting a renovation, which again kind of goes against what DHCD is looking to do, which is renovating. If it costs more to renovate, does that seem fair? So we're already adding trade permits to that. I think that is something worth talking about. But
So the trade permit itself is where you'll look for those contractors that are acting as licensed.
yes, sir.
So that part's important.
But the 180 currently on renovation and $6 per 1,000, you're proposing maybe lowering it to 150, you said? So
So
going to $10 per 1,000?
that's one way of doing it. That would definitely generate more revenue because in that instance, I think we had it was 84 renovations. We would have lost 30 times 84 in fees, and the base fee. So I think probably some of our lower renovation projects, anywhere between 20 and $50,000. So there's a larger percentage increase if we went with the 1% versus the.
So if a man does $100,000 worth of renovation, he's gonna pay the 150 and he's gonna pay 10,000. Under this new,
1,000.
yeah, so it'd be 6,000 currently, but 10,000 if you go up.
No, it was 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000, 600 to 1,000.
What's that?
600 or 1,000. So if it's 100,000, it would be 1 per 1,000.
Oh, it would not be the 6 per 1,000.
Yes, sir. It'd be 1%. So 1% of 100 would be 1.
So where's the difference at in that?
It would be from 600 to 1,000. So if it went from 6 per 1,000, $6 per 1,000, then it would go to $10 per 1,000. So it'd be.
That's what I'm saying. So if he was doing $100,000 worth of renovation, that's $10,000 permit fee, correct? Is that right?
I think it's 1,000.
You think it's $1,000? So
1%.
Yeah, 1% versus 0.6.
So the $6 is not per $1,000 spent.
Yeah, so whatever.
So
they
if you
said,
got $100,000 spent and you divide that by 1,000, right? Because you said it was $6 a thousand.
$6 per 1,000.
All right, divide that by 1,000 equals 100 times current 6 is 600. I don't know where my math is coming from.
That's okay. I did it so many times.
I wondered about
It
it.
wasn't,
So many times.
it wasn't by the pound.
That's right. No.
What's
That's
3%,
right.
what's 3% of 100,000? I can tell you what that is. Real quick.
I can
That's
tell you what,
3,000.
I can tell you what 6.5 does on 30 years.
But it's not around there. Yeah. Probably 15 and 22.
All right, Nick, did you have anything else for us? I think everybody's had kind of a consensus that we were interested in.
Yeah.
We want to help the
honestly,
contractors with unlicensed folks and then be even with our adjoining counties.
So the 10 per 1,000, I'm in favor of, and lowering the base to 150 rather than 180.
I appreciate you looking at other localities to make it pay.
Yes, ma'am. And I can send any information or, just basically give the list of the current fees for the other localities.
So this doesn't have to go to planning, correct? Steve? You there?
Wake up, Steve.
He might be peeing in things like.
I'm trying to get off mute. No, it does not. What I was gonna do is, we can put it in the board package and, do a public hearing. I think, it might not require a public hearing, but I think.
I think we should. Maybe the contractors can come and talk to us.
Right, and, just so you know, Nick's been working hard to, what we're trying to figure out is, could his department, which I'm on, the next one, if you don't get something in your package with a new HR policy where you just start studying, and I need to get approved, asking it, the store's been on me about that, and I got it ready for you. I want you, once I get that, HR policy approved from you guys, the next step is I'm gonna do an organizational chart. And one of the ladies in the office, she works with Nick, but I think she should work for Nick. Because she's like 90%, Nick probably read 90% of her job is lining up bill permits, inspections, And what we're trying to do is what the fees to pay for Nick, the whole department. I think that's just the fee.
Okay, yeah, I like it.
Sounds good to me.
Get it out of the tax rate. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, did you have anything else, Nick?
The only other thing is, just wanted to give a shout out to Melissa. She has become certified and DHCD has made it official. So she is a permit technician and our department is looking for new opportunities for her to get additional training. So,
Excellent.
yeah, and, organizationally, she was noticed by the Building and Code Officials Association of Virginia for a new permit technician group that was started. They just did it, I think it's Permit Techs of Central Virginia. And so they got recognized by the state. So very good. They're doing a good job.
$6 per 1,000, not 6% like I'm thinking over here, that's $6,000 for $100,000. That's kind of steep. But then I'm thinking 600 is kind of cheap.
When you first said that, I thought I
Well,
would
that's-
do renovations in Nottoway.
I was thinking people not gonna do anything.
I would like the board's permission just for to come off the agenda for a second. Mr. Vanderbeck, the airport discussion was at the beginning.
And I apologize for being late.
Okay. You willing to wait till we end here? We have two more. Okay.
Any of your business, I'm.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Good luck to Melissa.
All right, this is going to be Mr. Hyde. We've had a lot of work done by Commissioner Hudson in regards to opportunities to help our volunteers with their personal property tax. Mr. Rourke brought this up at the last meeting during the budget session. We didn't have any numbers then when he brought it up to make changes to it, and it was budget night. So I told Mr. Rourke, we'll look at it at the work session, and then we'll see what we want to do from there. But there was really no way to amend dollars at that night without having them. So now we have.
This is just a cross-reference to the board numbers.
This is current, so this is what we have.
That's what you
This is the current budget.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what
All
you,
right.
what you adopted last week.
And so what the board members need to understand, and then Mr. Hyde will start, is we're still going into reserves in this budget, the 900 and some $1,000. We can amend this budget, but anything we do here is going to increase that reserve number. There's nothing we can do about the rate or anything now. We would just be acknowledging that we're going to spend a little bit more. And maybe we can save it somewhere, maybe we can earn some extra revenue. But that's the number that you're talking about is the reserve number would increase by any of these amounts that we liked as far as, or felt like we were able to do or wanted to do. The premise is that you're going to hopefully attract more volunteers, the less in personal property tax that squad members and fire members have to pay. We've had a lot of new residents move in from other areas. They may or may not have been coming from places that had volunteers. They might have been only paid. So if we could get some notice out there, get some advertising out there and say, hey, we might have some retired EMTs. We might have people with backgrounds that we don't know. And if they see that, well, I don't have to pay this car tax if I volunteer, and then there'll be some guidelines that we have to set. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mr. Collins. So these are notes that will probably be helpful if you want to write on your page. I did the same thing. All of the yellow bars are impact. That's impact. So just as we move along, that's kind of what you focused on. What is that impact?
Is that first section where we are now?
Yeah, I'm going to go top to bottom.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir. And also top to bottom, all of this you may have in your mind. These do not include businesses and do not include single-wide mobile homes, because we found that there were only 2 single-wide mobile homes under the ownership of volunteer fire and EMS people in the county. So that wasn't figured under the personal property side. Okay, so at the top, the first section is just simply personal property tax on one vehicle. And that is the primary vehicle, the way we currently do it now with that $1 assessment, which is totally separate from this. That would be included in this. That would absorb that $1. And I highlighted it for you on adopted tax rates. So that $1 that we're currently giving them per 100, that would be absorbed. And this is something that Ms. Hudson and I have been working on since about 23. We've had so many changes in the board and administration, but in 23 we wanted to wipe one vehicle with personal property. So what this does, it kind of gives us an opportunity. So that $1 goes away, but also it would be an exemption of one vehicle on personal property. So that's what the top section is. Down to the first yellow bar, impact is $22,994 across the entire county, all volunteers. Now she broke it down into firefighter and EMS, but that just simply means it would be the second line would be whatever the Nottoway emergency squad has in the way of volunteers. Nothing to do with paid people. It's just volunteers and then firefighting. So she just wanted to give you that breakdown. But the green bar would be the combination, and then of course you got your tax after that. So that takes care of section 1. Any questions on the first vehicle? All right, the second blue bar is any other vehicles. And it's not limited to one additional, it would be all other. It would also be trailers, like boat trailers, and things of that nature. That's in that second section. So this figure, the second yellow bar, 45,246, is only those other vehicles, not that first vehicle at the top.
So that's not included 22,994.
Correct, Mr. Toad. So what we would do is if we exempted all personal property, we'd have to add that 22 and that 45.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we want to make sure we looked at it, from one vehicle standpoint, and then, and that would have to be like the primary vehicle they run calls on, et cetera, and then all other vehicles. So, yeah, and you pretty much, we run the math if we need to.
About $6 to $7,000.
So,
68.
yes, sir. So that is all personal property down to the second bar. All right. Any questions on personal property before we move to real estate?
How many, before you start real estate, do we have some volunteers that don't own real estate?
I don't know specifically. She has that. She has that in the tax records. I would say, and this is for the public too as well, and anyone attending, typically on your incentives, your junior members don't own anything. And even up until about 20, 22, 23, depends
They're
on
driving their parents.
Exactly. When mom and dad decide they want to deed it over to them or change the title, or if it's land, it'd be the same personal property or real estate. But typically, people don't buy real estate at that young age. So a lot of that is not impacted by that. But I don't know. We can find that out if you want to.
Okay.
If you want to get that figure, we can find that out. She has very detailed records, of course, by name. She has a name.
Have you seen other localities give discounts on real estate? I know a lot of them do the personal properties like us.
When we were doing the tax levy research, I didn't ask about the waiver to that. I would assume they looked at it, the ones that did pass a levy. I do know that the decal, actually the $1 that we have here at the bottom, I do know that's real popular. And I think several counties, maybe Dinwiddie, maybe Mecklenburg, that's a maybe. I know there's 2 to 3 neighboring counties that wipe the one vehicle totally, whereas we have the $1. Then there's other counties inside Virginia that do a half of what everybody pays. So if it's $385 on 100, they'll do like $250. Well, not $250, but whatever half is, or whatever half is. But some of them, you're just varying levels. $1 seems to be, when Ms. Hudson told me that's been around for a while. So that would be, that would be down to 0. So, but to answer your question on that, I don't know of anybody doing real estate. But then again, we're the only county in Southside Virginia as of right now
That has the levy.
that has the on.
I thought Prince Edward had.
Well, they have it on EMS. They have it on EMS.
So it's not fire and EMS.
Right, and they have it on real estate. So I'll have to ask Prince Edward if they actually,
Okay.
do anything with that. But other than that, there isn't many, other than Northern Virginia. But I can certainly find that.
So
for you.
moving along to the real estate, are you ready for that?
Sure, yeah,
All right.
if you are.
I
Sure.
am.
Okay,
The value of the firefighters' homes are $9,335,000.
yes,
At
sir.
48 cents is what you're saying is 44,809 is what they're paying in real estate tax.
Yes, sir.
Is this including past firemen, such as a lifetime fireman, lifetime volunteer fireman? Is he in this figure or is this people currently?
Are they active?
Correct, that's about the terminology.
That's a chief report that happens once a year.
Yeah.
Can you define what
I
the chiefs
can.
are doing?
Yes, sir. Good question. So what Ms. Hudson did on this is she used our existing system,
Mhm.
which is the chiefs send in rosters. They police the rosters. They send in really clean rosters to her every year. And they are life members because you earn that.
Mhm.
And then they are active members.
Okay, so it's both.
So that is,
But,
they
yeah,
are,
'cause
they
you did
are.
earn that.
Right, because you earn that. I mean,
Yeah, you did that
everybody's
long time.
pretty much 20 years. Most people in Southside Virginia, most departments are 20 years.
Then they're life members.
And it's 20 active years. They can't just skate 20 years. So it is an honor. Well, you bestowed into a special club, really based, not a club, but a category.
We had a response from Commissioner Hudson there's 28 members that don't own real estate.
Okay,
28 to do not.
good. Thank you, Ms. Hudson. 28 members.
How many volunteers in total are we talking about? Do you know that, buddy?
75, I believe. She'll probably text you in a minute because she's watching. I believe it's 75. And, there are 100 and some volunteers, but this is the eligible ones for this program, of 75.
And that includes the life members?
Yes. Yes. 75.
That's all three.
Yeah.
All five.
Right. That actually own something so that, when you look at the categories of why they're here
But I mean, it's the three fire departments.
and the emergency squad.
And
That's right. And I think they're running at 19. I think they showed you and I the roster the other day. I believe it was 19.
wonder how many lifetime numbers they got.
Oh, it's several on that roster. I know, I know Miss Fisher's on there.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's several. And then of course, fire departments have quite a few life members as well. But the life members definitely there. And so out of that 75, it would be first of all, they would have to own something that qualifies. And then it would have to be life member or active member. And that's what you're dealing with here.
Okay.
Yep.
So at what time in a person's volunteer career would they be eligible for this? On day one,
I think
Or-
they said 2 years.
or when they've got their certifications, or the 2-year mark?
I think it's gotta be active for 2 years, right, buddy?
Well, we haven't set that criteria
That's
for
part of
this
this.
one.
I mean, the one we previously.
Well,
had
if
on.
you don't mind, can I ask one of the chiefs over here
Sure.
as to what he's running for the numbers?
Folks, we do have Ron and Brian here from the fire departments, just.
Right,
I want to say a year.
Good, Brian, you look at it.
Is it 1 year?
Chief,
Go ahead, you like.
Chief Welch, Chief Welch,
like to talk now. Come on.
so when you're doing your roster, when are they eligible?
When I do the roster, I don't count anybody that's on probation, which is the first 6 months.
Okay.
So if their 6 months ends in November, they're not gonna get counted until the following July, August, when we submit the rosters.
Okay.
So it could be anywhere from 7 months to 12 months.
It's been the way it falls. So like personal property tax, whoever owns it on January 1st, that's a move hockey too.
So but if I came and joined in August, he's already submitted the roster.
That's right.
It's
But
gonna be
then
almost
6
a
months
year.
starts then.
My 6 months starts, but it's actually gonna be, before I get on the roster, it's gonna be on this.
11 months.
That's right.
It could be up to 11, yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be as short as,
So there was,
Does all the other two departments run the same way?
Pretty much so, yeah. I can't speak for Blackstone, but.
well, what we'll have to do, I think we need that, everybody trying to get together and be the same.
Mhm.
That
That's
way-
what I was
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
I agree.
as far as you know, there's nothing broken. Stone.
There's nothing in stone, no. Like I said, we run pretty much the same model. It's a 6-month probation period. And,
So if we define that, buddy, just say somebody that's been at least 6 months. Or do you want to do the 2 years, Bo? John was talking about 2 years.
6 months, time, me, if that's what they.
Well,
If they've completed their we complete their certification, whichever one that is.
right.
Active,
And he said it's a probation period, so they making sure they don't mess up for 6 months.
That's what I'm saying.
you could complete the probation period.
And if you ever kick one off, they automatically come off anyway, right? Y'all vote
unless,
one.
well, yeah. I mean, if they've made lifetime membership, you're not gonna kick them off.
You're gonna wrestle.
You got your good individual
You just
there.
rest.
But, the 6-month thing, the way I don't know how Berkeley or Blackstone is, the way, like I say, the way we run with it, they got 6 months, you know what you got in 6 months time. Same if you used to hire somebody to work the phone with you.
Yeah.
You know in 6 days what you got.
Yeah, that's
but we give them
exactly
6
right.
months. So, and we're pretty, I feel all three departments are pretty sticklers on, if they're not showing up, we're not gonna spend the thousands of dollars it requires to put
So,
them in here and all.
So somebody, we're not gonna get 25-year-olds. They're working. Somebody that's moved here that's 60 years old.
Right,
Are there different levels or different jobs that you would still want
absolutely.
a volunteer?
I've got a 69-year-old man pumps a truck every day and drives the accident scenes for us every day when that
So-
alarm goes off.
So any able-bodied volunteer, or even somebody that's not, you have office things to do, administrative things.
I agree.
Okay.
Look at Willie.
Yeah, I mean, the administrative part of it has gotten we were just talking about it here recently, you know, we go on a call, come back, write it in a legal pad and shove it in the broom
We're
closet.
trying to attract volunteers that are retired and have something, some value. So we're trying to make this where they'll say, well, I don't have to pay for that. Time.
What about the real estate? But
Okay, yeah, I'll go over that. And just, before-
Real quick though, just so you all sitting at the table and those listening in, just because they hit lifetime member, like Ron said, I've got several members that are quote unquote lifetime members. That when we have car wrecks like we had a couple days ago, they're the ones that I can count on showing up.
Yeah.
They might not come to every EMS call. They ain't coming every.
but even
smells
if they
and
come
bells
in,
call.
they done it for 20 years. So
Well,
like Hank said, they got it.
The money they've saved this county over that 20 years is
Well,
nothing
absolutely.
compared to
Right.
It's a
what.
real honor to be one of those, and the people that you know them and I know them too. It's a real honor, and I think that's a good thing for them.
So lifetime does not mean that you're done.
No, absolutely.
Lifetime means you're gonna keep going.
It's kind of like the retired folks, when they retire, they end up with.
We got one we just celebrated 50 years with last
Well,
December.
absolutely, and I know, I was talking to Jimmy today, when he hit 20 years in Blackstone, he kept going. And it's, you just keep going. You don't have to retire 20 years. You could go, be stowed in your life membership category and keep going for 20 more on the truck. So it just really depends on health and jobs and things of that nature. I would say that, I like the idea of going standard with this. I mean, I would just say it's a recommendation, but we collaborate with our chiefs, is that give them enough time to get in, when the tax season is hitting. So maybe just a 1 year window at least, because it gives them a chance to overlap whenever the tax season starts. Because you could come in at different times of the year. You might come in right at tax time, or you might come in halfway through the tax year. So it kind of evens that out a little bit, but it also gives you some standard amount of time. You don't want them to wait too long. If they're doing,
No, you want, if they're,
a good job,
Right.
if they see that as an incentive, you can't have the carrot too far away.
that's right.
You want them to come and say, hey, I can help you, I can drive a truck, I can do these other things.
Exactly. Don't want to dangle the carrot, wait
Right.
2 years to grab it.
Right.
Right.
So, I guess that's more for your work session with everybody, like,
Sure.
just a discussion, talk to everybody, see what each individual's doing, and then try to make it.
Sure. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. That'd be easy enough. We have everybody at the table. Okay, real estate, if everybody's good with personal property explanation, on the real estate, very much the same, but from the first red bar is your primary residence and lot. And then the way Ms. Hudson went about it, and we both collaborated on this a couple times in our office, is if you own a 5-acre lot or a 50-acre lot, if your house is attached to it, that is what we're talking about. It's whatever your house is attached to.
So this is not 400-acre farm.
Yes, it is.
Could be.
He's saying it is.
If
If the house
it
is
goes,
So it's house and 5? Or that 5 is,
I guess it depends on.
He
how
said
your
whatever
records are.
he's saying whatever the survey says that your house is. If it's 36 acres, and that's all you own, your house is only 36 acres. This is on the entire 36 acres or 360 acres.
why do you say 5-acre lot?
Oh, that was
This
just,
is just
that was just a
example.
number.
Oh,
That was just
Because
a
it's
number.
you need 5 acres.
I think 5 stands acres. Don't we have an ordinance for
well,
5?
you got
We
3
do,
and 5,
depending on where you're at.
so you're just,
But mostly, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a minimum.
whatever parcel your residence is on, will be
Correct.
exempt.
Yes, yes, sir, that's right. Could be half acre. If you-
He's gonna go do certified.
I'm coming.
Yeah. He's gonna drive a truck.
They might not want you, but.
But we thought
Say a
that,
lot of those things.
it's really, I guess it's accountable, you're accountable in the records themselves. So it's whatever your house
He
is
can't,
attached
he
to.
can't work on Wednesday or Tuesday.
You're right.
So we need to think about a fair way of doing that. You take a person that's got a few hundred acres and the house sits in the center of it. Is it fair for him to get a tax break on his entire,
Well, and then we have 28 that don't own real estate,
and then you have some that don't even own real estate. So they're not getting that.
and there's only 70.
And if they're written, their landlords are having to go up because they haven't paid more taxes on it. So they need some help too.
Well,
But they're paying the tax. Their landlord's gonna raise the rent.
Landlords will raise rent.
You
Their
know that-
landlord ain't gonna give them an exemption because
So I think the real estate's gonna be tough to
it's
do.
gonna be really tough.
I would, myself, I think the easiest one to do is personal property. And just do 0.
Because everybody, all of them has.
All of
All
them
of
be
them have a
driving,
vehicle.
they're gonna be driving something, and I feel like that's the easiest way, because when you start talking about real estate, you might have a volunteer that lives in somebody else's house, but them in their parents' house, for example. You know,
But you know, a volunteer reached out to me and told me, he said, Bo, for years, he said, I bought a truck that was at least 7 years old. He said, I've done that because taxes and I didn't have truck payment. He said, now, he's been a volunteer a long time. He said, I've been a volunteer a really long time. Ain't gonna help me much. But the guys want to go out and buy my $89,000 truck, gonna help them a whole lot.
Well, that's what I was gonna mention to you a minute ago. Real estate, there is no fair model in personal property either, because somebody might be riding on it.
But that's a
A
choice.
new Silverado versus an old 1995 Chevy that's probably got a value of about $40, $50 on it.
So you're right in that case. Also.
Well, maybe that'll stimulate the economy and the old cat go buy a brand new pickup.
So Dickie, that you've made a suggestion, and you said 0 on personal property. Is that on the one vehicle?
I would
Or is
say,
that
I would
all
say
the-
the one.
Okay.
The one that
But
Joanne's
not all
calls
the.
on.
So what you're talking about?
But let's say,
So you're talking about $68,000 if you do all personal property owned by volunteers, or you're talking about $22,000
For one vehicle.
if you go 0 from one vehicle.
And that would be the most highest value vehicle.
Whichever one they drive it's supposed to be whatever they drive to the station. So if they've got a Yukon XL and they drive it to the station, they just say $1,800.
What about if they're driving a Volkswagen to the station, but they got the Ferrari in the garage?
Well, they can drive a Ferrari, but they have to drive it to the station.
That's been around for years in the fire service, and the fire departments, they police that and it's working fine. It's all.
So the
You got
chief's gotta
you got
keep
a
an eye
lot
on
of
that too.
flavors. You got a lot of flavors like that, from old VW all the way up to a brand new Cadillac. But I think, it's that vehicle they choose. It's the one they choose, and it's the one they go to the station on, or whatever they might want to use it for. But it's just
see what I'm saying, with the,
fundraising.
says the other personal property owned by the volunteer. So
It's
the
both.
volunteer's got a son and a daughter. He owns the vehicle.
Mhm.
So you gonna let them slide?
Well, there's a whole family.
That's
Well,
what I
that's
mean.
I
why
would
you said
say,
only do it
I'd
once.
say let's consider this. Since the budget is passed, we can certainly find a reappropriation somewhere between 14 and 22
Right.
without having to look too far. I think we can hopefully not spend some money, save some money somewhere else. Let's put forward going to 0 on that one vehicle. See if that helps attract some folks. And then when we get into budget next year,
We'll look at it.
then we can, since we've got the numbers now.
Right.
Now
Because I mean, we're putting this, I know we're dollar cents to death, but the point is to recognize our volunteers and give them incentive.
we want new volunteers. What's your suggestion?
That, I mean, I like this model because you are looking at the volunteers, because they choose to volunteer. Then we have our paid service, but we
Right.
still need our volunteers.
But
And the
the majority of the volunteers, if we went up from $1 to $2, they have a love for the community. That's not gonna make.
How y'all feel about what I said?
Unless they just get zero money on the show.
But
and I wouldn't
it's
like.
the cost.
It's a start.
I mean,
It's a
Now,
start.
that's
Get it going.
Yeah, it's a start. I'll give you that. As far as drawing new interest, I
You don't think it will?
think that'll be 0.
I agree with that.
One wholeheartedly. You look at how the younger individuals are this day and time. That's who we need is the younger individuals, the ones we can get trained up and put in these house fires, toting 100-pound tools around on scene. It's great. I'll take all the 50, 60, 70-year-old guys I can get that are committed. I need the younger folks. That's who's doing it. The only other thing I will say on this, you look at the money we just had to spend on this rescue squad program. If we don't look hard, and things like this has been being discussed at this complex for 20 or some years up here. I watched Chief St. Majero up here, Walter Mac Osborne, a bunch of them over the years. Val Wilson, John Shue, Deon Tillman. You look at this whole sheet, it's a little over $200,000. These 100+ volunteers are in this county right now are saving this county probably what, Brian, $3.5 to $4 million just in payroll.
At least.
That ain't putting the tire on the truck or the fuel nozzle in the tank. And like I say, it's a start, but I urge you trying to get recruitment, looking forward, wholeheartedly do some deep searching.
But another person reached out and told me, said that the volunteers have never had any trouble asking for anything before, and they not asking, they didn't come up and stand in front of that podium and ask.
No,
anything.
no, like I said, we respect, we know where the county's at right now.
Right.
And we've got needs coming, you know,
Oh, absolutely.
but it,
But y'all didn't come and ask for none of it. I
no,
want the public to know that.
oh, yeah, that's,
Well, they
we
want flat funded.
That's right.
really, we
Before they
tried
go
to-
to buying at the county.
That's right.
I'll speak on our department now. We had some, you know, future purchases we were looking at, and we've really changed course on that due to expensive things now and knowing, you know, where our funding with the county stands. So it, like I say, it's a start, but I don't think it's enough to draw no.
I heard a couple people say Chrome gonna put out fire, but going back to them young boys toting them 100 pounds, they like that Chrome.
They
I ain't
do.
so young,
And I will say something on that as well, though. A lot of people don't realize what the chrome's on there for. It's aluminum due to weight. That's one thing I've really got tired of hearing. Is they like their shiny stuff and their new stuff and their chrome stuff. Come join us, fill out an application, and we'll explain it all.
Right. I like Chrome.
Glad to
That's
have
my
you.
favorite color.
Well, let's consider, you know, that John was the one that brought this up during budget. John's not here tonight, so we need to have a further discussion with John. I talked to him. He would like to go, I think, all the personal property. I'm not sure about the real estate. I don't think the real estate, go ahead.
No, I just want to fill in just real quick, listen to what you guys talked about. You know, even when I was on the board, to me, it's not the fire department's responsibility to find volunteers. If they're trying to save us money, that's really the county's responsibility. And we still got some of that, you know, that tax levy covered, but we don't have the sticker money now, but we could use some sticker money in the future for some type of volunteer incentive program. That shouldn't come out, I don't think it should come out of fire department's budget with incentive programs for volunteers. I mean,
And you give 50, 50, and 50. But then that's money they would lose.
You know, see, that money is already, we don't really have that earmark, it's going back to the general fund, so the tax levy covered that, okay?
Oh, okay. So the levy took up that money. And then we can use that. Okay. So,
Ron's right, I think it's a start, but we got a long way to go with this thing, that's a long way to go, long way to go.
Well, if we did total on all the personal property, we're looking at what,
that's 68.
68?
About 68,000.
Hey, buddy.
But to me, that's not that much money. When we just talked about raising bill permit fees, and I know that's going to cover his budget.
Right.
So that's a
But you still gonna have to go back in the reserve to get the 68,000.
yeah.
Did you
Spend it somewhere
did you
else.
say the sticker money's not
Somewhere
been allocated, Steve?
No, that's just going back to general fund, you know, trying to cover some stuff, that's going back there.
Right. But this would, what we're looking at is we don't have anything allocated for this. But, you know, we're early in the season here, so we can keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep that, that'd be like something, I mean, these guys are pretty creative, I think to come up with some type of volunteer, incentive program or something, but I get it. But let's say they go to the schools, I mean, that sounds simple, but they gonna take a day, go to the schools and and they may buy these little things for, I don't know, a firefighter's hat or something, I'm just making up stuff. You know, we should help out with that a little bit if we're trying to recruit people to be firefighters, you know, just something to think about, you know.
Well, in this packet we got tonight, it says firefighter certification program at Nottoway High School, beginning in the fall.
This is your handout. This is your handout you did?
Yeah, I wanted to, well, can we finish this sheet and then let me go over this
Sure.
real quick? I promise I'll go quicker, but I wanted to go over this with you. I made it for you. And I wanted to explain it a little bit. So even though it sounds like real estate is not really on the forefront, the second sheet that you have, or the bottom of your sheet, was all other real estate. And I know that, you know, you're talking about primary and the size of your lot. And it might be something to think about that if you do a primary real estate, you could set it at a set figure, like whatever the minimum lot size is, and just go with that. I don't know. Houses will be different though. Some houses will be a lot more expensive than others. So you're never gonna really get that one equal. But,
Unless you just put a dollar figure on and say, we're gonna
right,
do something for the first $100,000.
so we
That
do
take care
know,
of all of it, make it more
sure.
even across the road.
But the impact, some I'm noticing while you were just talking, is if you did one car or one vehicle and one real estate, that total is 77,000. If you did all personal property, it's 68,000. It's not even $10,000 difference. So I guess you could kind of like pick and choose which category you wanted. One would be all
So
personal
one
property.
vehicle and your home.
One vehicle and one real estate would be 77,000 total. And all personal
Where you-
property
where
with
you
no
seeing
real
this?
estate, with 55 added to the 22.
Oh,
If
okay.
you did 1 and 1. So basically 1 and 1 of your lot and your car, 22 and 55. Whereas if you do all personal property, you're looking at 68. So you're looking at less than $10,000 difference between those two options. But moving along to the last piece, which is probably a long shot here, is other lots. I just wanted you to know what Christie had done, just to explain it for her. The last yellow bar at 24,000 is all other property owned by volunteer fire and EMS people in Nottoway County. You see, it's not much. Most people just own their primary lot in their house. So this would be other remote, and I asked Christie, is this detached? Yes, it is. It could be a detached 100-acre farm, or it could be a detached 20-acre lot, or a 5-acre lot, but it's not attached to your primary. And that's 24,000 impact.
Could be rent, could be rental house.
It could be. So, just that they own and again, would be detached.
I think for future reference, when we come back and look at this, we should consider a dollar amount. If we're gonna do anything with the real estate, it should be a dollar amount. Just because a person lives in a $20,000 house and another person lives in a $500,000 house, that goes back to the vehicle. It's because I choose to drive a truck 200,000 miles on, you don't. You get a whole lot bigger savings than I am.
Well, the vehicle is probably a choice. I always buy stuff that's 7, 8, 9 years old. But the ability to afford a $500,000 house and the ability to afford,
Oh,
$100,000.
say $150,000.
but I understand what
But
you're
it
saying. So
should
if
be
you
like
just do it,
$100,000
so if you just did
and
a
we see
flat,
that impact.
so if you just did a flat fee, you volunteer,
I
you
think
you get a $500 credit on your real estate.
Which would be $100,000, $400,000.
Don't have real estate too, and that's it.
They would get to 500.
They just get the $500
20,
cash.
the 28.
28 members that do not, right?
Yeah, they would get the $500 cash. Whatever they not having to pay, they would get that in cash.
And I don't know which size some of these lots are. Obviously, people have different sizes.
So that's why the fee takes
You wouldn't
care
have
of
to
it.
worry about it. Flat fee
So,
will take care of all
yeah.
that.
That's right.
A
Yeah,
50-acre
I'm
place
ready.
compared to a 2.5-acre place. It doesn't matter. You get a flat fee off your real estate.
Up to five, if it's $100,000, that's what decide to go on it, 48 cents, $480. Up to $480. Anything less than that, they get the cash difference.
You're not gonna find much on it. There'll be none
There'd be none.
because everything's worth 100,000.
Right.
So really, in summary, even though this is I guess the longer shot option, if you did all real estate that's in ownership, that's 79,000, roughly 79,000. That's the entire county. That's everybody in fire and EMS that owns real estate. And that's all the properties they own under their name.
So you take the 480 and divide, multiply times, hold on. You said it was 75 volunteers, right? That'd be exactly half. It'd be about $36,000.
Roughly. Now, 75.
Not counting
Right.
personal property.
Right.
That's just real estate.
And of course, now if the incentive works, think about it. You
Oh, you done saved yourself, if that makes you get 20 new people come, you done saved yourself.
Right. But what I'm saying is your number grows because you're adding on people. You're adding on people to the roster. So 75
Yeah.
now is what you have, but we have 100 and some volunteers. Probably, I'm gonna guess 120, but 120, 130. See, Mr. Toad, we have a training software that has everybody loaded in it. And there's people loaded in it that are not on this list because they're not eligible for this list. Might be juniors, might be people that don't own property. So our total number out here running is about 130, 140. If they were all, in the eligibility category, we'd be looking at a totally different number.
Right.
But
But like the juniors,
but
you said.
but I think it's important for everybody to know that we don't just have 75 volunteers. That's just what we have allocated for this.
Oh, right.
Based on act.
That's correct. Can I go over this for you with Rick? I heard you had some interest here, and I thought this would be good I wanted you to, and, you know, Mr. Basinger mentioned it, and I think Mr. Welch, or Chief Welch mentioned it. You know, what is a volunteer value to us in Nottoway County? Well, all counties, the volunteers are great value, millions of dollars. And actually, you know, I did some minimum salaries, and just a minimum salary level at 44,000 benefits would be 56,000 for one person. That's a whole package with uniforms and all. And that's on the low end today. If you did that times 18, that's $1 million. So 18 firefighters at a competitive salary today with uniforms and benefits, and put them to work, is $1,008,000. And again, that's not a very competitive salary. That's a firefighter EMT.
Is that one station, buddy?
Well, that'd be 18, so you could chop it up however you want it, but I just put that number 8. And the reason I came up with 18, that would be like doing the model you talked about before, would be the 2 and 2. Say we had 2 times 3 stations, just to supplement. That would be 3 stations. Well, then you would need 3 shifts if you did it right. If you did it where it was around the clock coverage, you would need, you know, 2, 2, and 2, A, B, and C shift. And that's just a number we're throwing out. And obviously, you would have to tool it based on how your scheduling is as to whether 18 would do it. But 18 people would be $1 million. So that gives you an idea.
18 people wouldn't come close to it.
No, it wouldn't. And look, we're talking about 75 here. Imagine what 75 would cost you.
Right.
If 18 costs you $1 million.
And
So
then we
with
talk about
that-
the $480 on $100,000
Right.
plus the rest of personal property, say $1,000. Do you remember the Christmas Club Citizens Bank had $20 a week? At Christmas time, they pay the last payment before you got $1,000. So you gonna tell the man $20 a week?
Yeah.
We'll pay the last payment.
So I wanted to, Mr. Toph, if I
I
can,
look at stuff like that.
can I,
Yes, sir, you can.
let me, what I was gonna do is just want to go over what we're doing already, just so people know, because a lot of people don't know. So volunteer recruitment efforts, I heard, I believe it was Mr. Bowen mentioned something about, you know, recruit efforts and putting money into that. So we have a countywide recruitment retention committee. We've been meeting for 2 to 3 years now. This was formed when I came on board, and it's all representative of all 4 departments. We have about 2 people on each, from each department. And we have put together a lot of ideas. They've done it as a collaborative effort. Right now, we already have the $25 county decal fee waiver for one vehicle. That's been in place for years, decades. That's not impacted by any of what we talked about tonight. That's being done. Then you get the $1 that we talked about tonight that could possibly go away. That's being done, go away as far as taxes. And then the department basic training is at no cost to any member. They come in, Blackstone crew, Burkeville, Nottoway Emergency train their people in-house, and they send them to county classes and state classes. And it's no cost to these members. They also give them life insurance through volunteer fire insurance services. There's options for accident and health insurance. They carry that on them. And they carry line of duty coverage, which they pay. The towns pay all of the line of duty coverage for the 3 fire departments, and we pay the volunteers for Nottoway Emergency Squad. Okay. The next page is page 11. Don't pay attention to my numbers. I just chopped.
I want to ask you one question. Health insurance options offered through the department. Is that cost shared, or is that what you're speaking of?
No, these are just options that if they wanted some insurance, they have a carrier.
They have a group policy that they get it maybe cheaper,
They have a carrier.
but the volunteers still have to pay it.
No, the fire department usually takes care of all of that. This
All
is
the whole
a
premium for health
special-
insurance?
It's a special volunteer program, right? It's for on duty time, like they're
Oh,
covered.
almost like workers' comp.
It's like accidents.
So it's not, if you get sick at home.
No, okay, I don't
It
have
is
that.
workman's comp included in that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I need to put workman's comp on there, but that's included in it. And the life is like, if you sign up for it, you can get it and they'll pay for it, but it comes through like a volunteer fire insurance. Then we have social media and website posting. You can see that anytime you want. It's on all 4 of the department sites. And then Susan and I linked it on our site. So we have it on our page and they can just go and click on Burkeville Crew, whatever. Members receive first responder discounts on cell phone. Case in point, AT&T FirstNet gives you a significant discount if you're just a member. And that has nothing to do, the fire department just signs a thing saying, he is a member, it gives you proof of membership. And then you go other places and buy things and get a discount, as long as you prove you're in that fire department. The certification program is starting at Nottoway High School in the fall. Devin Foster, Deputy Chief Dr. Devin, is working on that. We're helping him with it, and different ones that are going to be teaching, and that's going to be fall of 25 right up here at Nottoway High School. And that's certification. In public education, we go to all these events, not only the county where I set up a tent, but we also have all the departments set up tents. And we set up tables, and we give out information and recruit at all the outdoor events, whether it's virtual days or whether it's a career fair at the high school. Third page, there's a line item established under my budget. Put it in there 2 years ago. It's still in there. Thank you for funding it again. I think you level funded it this year. Appreciate that. And we use that to buy signs, banners, and things that we need, and whatever the committee feels like they need within that line item. And of course, that line item is $2,000, so it's minimal. But they do all the small things that we need to do to help recruit. And then we also provide the public education. And then the third bullet is basically, it's what we said on the first page, but if you're affiliated with a fire department in Nottoway County, we pay for the certification books, materials, test fees, and so forth. It comes out of the training line item of the county budget. So we already pay for that through my budget. And then the department provides uniform and duty items. That's going to be company by company. Well, a crew wants to give you a t-shirt, Blackstone wants to give you a t-shirt, sweatshirt, and whatever hat, things that they already have planned out within the department, they get that free of charge. They also get the station facility when they want, birthday parties for their family. Most volunteer fire departments, that's a perk that we all have had. It's really good because you can use that fire station, really nice space, bathrooms, bays, and they can use that fire station because they're a member, and they can also use the fitness equipment. All of them have fitness equipment, all 3 fire departments. And that's pretty much it, what we're doing right now. So those are the things that are already in place. And then if we decide to do what we talked about tonight, that can be added to the list. And then the last page that I provided you with is a little bit about what's going on out here today, is the reason it's making it so hard for the fire departments to, recruit, but also it's a financial piece, but this affects recruiting, where you have your young members come in different mindsets. They don't worry about a standard deduction on the IRS anymore for being a member, or for donating or anything like that. They don't look at that at all. So typically the public, it impacts the public. So this is more funding oriented because this is what cuts down on the income coming into fire departments because of these things. And of course, post-COVID, we're still dealing with some financial impacts, and we're also dealing with recruiting impacts post-COVID. Because I think some people need to get out of that COVID mode. Come on out and volunteer, and let's pull hose. Let's go ride in the back of an ambulance, learn how to treat people.
I would say, did have several requests, and that makes sense to me. Why would a volunteer in either department be subject to the new levies? They're already volunteering, taking their money, their expense, and their time.
I totally agree with that. If they're not though, you have to refigure the number because the numbers of the letters included in the DM.
They could get one or the other. If we cut the levy on them, then they couldn't get the incentive by the vehicle.
Oh, the flat fee on the real estate.
Right.
If we went, but we're talking about doing that next year. On the road. That's what I heard somebody say.
Well, we're talking out of budget. With the budget's passed.
Right.
So whatever we do,
Be next year.
we gotta find it.
We gotta find the money if we're gonna do it this coming year.
Yep.
Now, here's something, if you don't mind me putting out, and I'll touch on, I think it was Mr. Bowman said, but I want to think back to me and Dion Tomer when he was Chief Tomer back in the and I've also talked to Chief Shineff and many others about this, Chief Shute, is any incentive is going to take money. But we talked about maybe a really good incentive would give the member something when they come in, whether it would be like a card, like a gift card that has a number on it. When you go buy a gift card at Walmart, you set your fee. And then once you hit that, you're done. Is make that for gas so they could somehow recoup the expenses of driving to the fire station to come to fire calls and EMS calls, to recoup the expense in an accountable way. But the only way you'd be able to fund things like that or be able to get things like pay per call is that you need a certain amount of money set
Well, if you're
aside.
paid per call, then you're not a volunteer.
Right, but they do things like, I'll give you, Safe Hill actually does a clothing allowance. And the clothing allowance, they, at the end of each year, they give checks to their members, so many dollars per call. If they show up on that call, they check it by the sheet and they say, you came to this many calls, this is how much we're giving you per call. There are a lot of departments in Southside Virginia paying per call. Some are paying even upwards of $8 per call. And they're not considered paid people. They're under the Fair Labor Standards. They're under the rules and regulations because they call it like, so some type of recoup allowance or reimbursement allowance to the expenses. It's being done. It's being done by a lot of different departments, but I will
So
tell
where they
you,
getting the money to do it?
well, they're setting that money aside.
Who is the
And-
department on their request?
Right.
So is that gonna make them ask for more money so they can do that and they give it to them?
Well, it depends on where the money source is coming from. Like, for instance, you have to ask each fire department, but some may be getting it from various ways of fundraising. Some may be getting it from like a levy like we have, where they take a little bit of it and they put it right here and say that's a recruitment and an incentive program. So in other words, if it took $40,000 at the end of the year to give checks to all the different people for paid per call, you would have that 40,000 set aside. And when you think about it, when I just told you one firefighter costs 56, what's 40,000 at the end of the year to pay the whole department? So in other words, the department may be an active department with a lot of members, or it could
Did
be
I hear
just a
you
few.
say $8 per call?
Some people are. Some people are getting $8, not in this county, but in other counties.
$8 per call.
$5 a call, $8 a call. I saw it started.
Did the attorneys do that? Look at them.
It can't work. All right,
Not
guys.
even to touch the
I
phone.
think we've had a good discussion.
It's not wages.
It's just a sentence.
I think we've had a good discussion. Yeah, Steve?
Just real quick, and good discussion. Whatever we do, Chris is very creative. Whatever we do, let's say you did one free vehicle. I'm just making that up. Man, I would like to get it be written and read somewhere and put in with the tax bill this year.
Uh-huh.
And last year I was trying to do something like that. I found out the treasurer of Billy outside contract still in the envelope, so I couldn't get anything in there. So if we're gonna do something.
Well, we gotta do it for Christie anyway, because she's gotta, set the real estate book and all that.
Right, I think something can be read like August and stuff, but I just want to throw that out there. Like, it'd be nice to have something to read. Volunteers want it. This will happen if you volunteer. We're looking for people from 16 to 80 years old. Put something out like.
Whatever we do ain't gonna be enough. It can't be. It really can't be. What is enough is their love for the community, the reason they do it.
Yeah.
As I said, they didn't come and ask for nothing.
And
They just trying to look down the road a little bit to get these folks involved.
they every little piece is a step. And to my point just now, it would be a mixture of things, not just one incentive is gonna be it. You have to have a mix- and we have a mixture now. We would just add more.
Way more than I knew of. I'm glad for it.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna move to the next thing on the agenda.
Well, are we looking at this at the next, in 2 weeks? At the supervisors meeting?
1 week. Next week is supervisor meeting, isn't it?
No,
26.
26.
We moved the holiday, Juneteenth.
Oh, that's right. I remember. I told you I forget.
26.
All right.
Okay.
So what can Ms. Hudson and I get?
So I would think we had good discussion about one vehicle down to 0. And then considering they wouldn't pay the levies.
Right. They wouldn't pay the new levy. What you think?
I was gonna ask that, y'all, and if I spoke one more time.
Just one more look.
Yeah,
We're
real
moving.
quick. Like I said, I appreciate y'all even looking at this, because we've been fighting this for years and years. Y'all just taking the time to even discuss it means a lot to all of us throughout the county. Best thing I think is let us speak with Buddy, our association meeting, and,
They didn't come back with some stuff.
Yeah, y'all come back with the suggestion.
yeah, he can come back with what we come up with, and once again, thank y'all for even taking the time to consider this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hyde, and Ms. Hudson, thank you. That was a lot of good information, so we could have a good discussion. Certainly appreciate that. All right, got Chairman Collins on employee handbook. I never saw it before. Steve, what are we doing?
Steve, John and I are on that committee. Hello.
So Daphne, I can amend it to Daphne on the employee handbook. Go ahead, Ms. Norton.
Well, I didn't know it was gonna be presented tonight, but anyway, John and I have been looking at this with Steve too, and Logan, for well over a year and a half. This was crafted by, our former law firm, Sands Anderson. And we've gone through, Logan has gone through.
So this has been available for several years.
Yes. Steve had Logan completed going through this, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. So it's basically,
So this has had any changes that,
it's got a
There's
few
been some- there's been
changes,
some
but
edits.
from working in this realm for 25 years in HR and payroll, this is a good document. It's lengthy, but you have to have these things in place.
are you looking to get this into the book in 2 weeks, Steve?
Yes, and actually I was utilizing that thing now, we just haven't adopted it, I know that.
Well, if it's gonna come in our book, we got it tonight, we can read them.
Yeah.
And then call you individually or call Daphne with any questions about why something, we're not gonna sit and go through this thing tonight.
No,
Okay,
I had a water trouble at home.
All right,
Steve, would
So I
you
would-
agree, it is a good document?
if you can make sure Mr. Rourke gets a copy, does Mr. Rourke already have a copy? John Rourke,
Not this.
not this copy? Steve, if you can make sure John had a copy sometime between now and well, he's gonna get a copy in his book next Friday. So that might be fine. And he's been involved in it, so,
Great.
anybody,
But you will take it to review. Cool.
anybody that has any questions, so Steve or Daphne, give them a call and see if they can answer your question. And then we'll get it into the supervisor's book for the end of the month.
Yeah, most of the stuff in that bill is really taking back on a lot of the state already does, so you know that.
Okay,
And it needs to be included in the employment packet when we offer a position,
So
which
that-
we'll talk about later, to have
Cool.
like just a general overview for each employee hire.
and you can put it on the computers so that everybody has it on their desktop.
Is board member considered to be an employee of the county since we get away?
No,
We get away?
we're not employed.
For point of clarification to Bill, the constitutional officer does not have to go by our plan. I mean, I just believe.
That's the first thing I read in there. Yep, it's only if they adopt it.
Most of them do, but they don't have to.
That's the very first thing I read. I was
All right.
trying to get some health insurance.
So we're looking for, we tried that with you last week. So, anybody has any questions, Mr. Bowen, Ms. Norton? Okay. Meeting agendas. So Chairman Collins, Administrator Bowen.
I think when I was on that board, I didn't know how to title it, I kind of got brain fog, But here, I think what I was trying to title that board was about, what you and I had done with a recently, and it was.
Oh, about that's why, okay. Andre, you're okay. Rules of procedure and agenda, that's what we wanted to talk about. I've had several citizens ask about our delegations from the public, and we're still limited to this agenda or the prior agenda. I talked to Mr. Rourke last night, he thinks we could leave it like it is, and it's okay. Just a quick discussion, Bo, what do you want to open it back up? Do you want to, are you happy with where it is?
I don't see them even open back up.
Have you heard anything from citizens?
No,
Okay, Mr. Wood?
not related to that at all.
I've only heard from one, and it's, I mean, it's clear what our intentions are with this.
We want to run a
don't
good,
wanna stifle
we want to run a good meeting.
We want to run a good meeting.
Well, Dickie? You're,
I'm fine with the way it is. I understand, I know why it's the way it is.
okay.
Mhm.
So no change with agenda or this agenda. Any citizen by calling administration says, I want to be on the agenda.
That was, when
Then
I
they-
first got on the board, that thing was if you want to
You
speak.
mentioned that if you had a topic.
Yes, if you had a
called
topic you want to
and got on the
discuss,
topic.
yeah, you call the office and get your name on the agenda.
Mhm.
you
Get
wanna
on
talk.
it like a presentation.
Right.
Is it still that way, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, people,
Well, I don't know
but
if it
people
is
don't
or not.
realize that. I think the only time they realized they could speak was delegations from the public.
All right.
And so I've told several people, just call Andre and say, I want to be on the agenda.
Mhm.
And even some of them said, well, that's, you're still my First Amendment. I said, no, we're just telling you to get on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if you got something you want
And you
to
don't,
speak to us about,
and I suppose you don't have to say what your topic is. You say, I'd like to speak on a certain topic. I don't know. But
They would have to say what this.
Yeah.
They would have to say what their subject is.
I would hope so.
I
I
think.
hope they'd be willing to.
Okay. All right. So
What do you think?
not,
Are you talking about without a time limitation?
No, we've got a 5-minute
5
time.
minutes.
no, I mean, they would, if they came in with a topic, they have an agenda. I guess you could get somebody with filibuster to talk all night.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing I can think just from, the difference in getting on the agenda versus just speaking in the public comment period.
Right.
A lot of times if you're on the agenda, there's not really a time limitation, so I don't know if you want to open it up to allow somebody to call in advance and soak up an hour of your meeting.
No, I think they need a limit on it. Even if they got on the agenda, they need a 10-minute or whatever.
I mean, generally, wouldn't that be what the public comment period is for?
Well, we've got several citizens that want to just come up there and they have personal agendas that don't forward the business of this county. And that's why we went to agenda or agenda.
They come to the wrong county meeting.
Yeah, what happened, we had a blowout at a meeting 2 years ago, whatever. And so that's why we changed the rules, say, if you're gonna speak at our meeting tonight, you either gotta speak on the agenda we have tonight or the agenda we had last month. That's the purpose of it. So I don't know,
Just, you want to do no change?
I would do no changing. If somebody wants, that's what you got your board number for.
Call your board member.
right,
you
right,
bring-
exactly.
I got something bothering me, Dad, Bo, or Bill, or Dickie, John.
Right.
You don't
Go
want
ahead,
to
Steve.
say for your presentation.
The other part of that was, it wasn't just that, it also came up, Bill, that, a citizen said, hey, at the end of the meeting, could you have a section that says, point of clarification? In other words, if something happened, a citizen wants to get back up there and say, hey, I
And
don't
just ask a question and have a shorter time.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what they're asking for.
Now, the towns, I don't know about Blackstone, but Crew has 2 public comments, one in the beginning and one in the end. And you have your.
Will you limit the
Um,
time?
Yes,
Okay.
2 minutes at the end.
and it could be something that comes up that they may have.
Well, I'm going to address something else, and this will go to that. So during the budget meeting,
I don't think you're gonna come back up. That's spring and meeting on night where you have to go in and take a vote to go past time.
So I exited the rules of procedure and I allowed y'all to go back and forth with the folks during the budget hearing. Board members shall limit their comments in public hearings to ensure participation by the public without board interference. And I allowed that. So I just want you to know that I was outside the rules of procedure. We also have our code of ethics. We had a member discussing another elected office. Perform the functions of the office with integrity, avoiding any improper use or influence of the office. During a regular meeting, you have to always remember that you're there to represent the citizens, not you individually. If you want to do something individually, go home and walk them down the street with a sign. And each of us, you guys can read these again, each of us has the ability to say point of order. And that goes to the chairman, and you say rules of procedure, or you say code of conduct. And it's that time the chairman makes the decision whether those have been exited. I want you to let you know that the 2 of your members did not follow rules at the budget hearing. So let's try to get back to following the rules, go point of order, code of conduct, rules of procedure, and then whoever the chairman is would have to say, okay, let's get back to business. Fair enough?
Very fair.
All right, Mr. Vanderbeck, we're going to circle back. We talked about the Department of Aviation, the partnership between the town of Blackstone and the county, and the reason why that's important. We talked about the 84 acres with our airport use by right zoning. Seems that would be pretty attractive to me as a business owner, that I don't have to come here, go through planning, go through public hearings, all that. This is a place for me to come do my aviation business. Is there anything you want to cover, or see, maybe just anybody have any questions? Anything from Mr. Vanderbeck?
I
Questions?
don't, I think we covered it.
Covered pretty good?
Anybody got any questions?
The only question they do have, I see he's got two different drafts. One would be the creation of a zoning district. And the second one is the overlay district, which has the horizontal and vertical
So they're
setbacks.
they're gonna go on both airports, Crew and Blackstone.
Don't you guys already have an
No.
airport overlay district? Do you?
No,
No kidding. All right. Well,
so we gotta have that. So,
Well,
well,
they need to-
FAA's gonna come down there and say, what are you doing?
I'd like to check to see how much adjoining property is affected by, or this property that could be rezoned would be affected by the
We're
standard.
we're gonna do the ordinance on just the 84 acres first, because it adjoins the fence. We could consider it across the road if we have some success. And I would love to have 15 businesses come in there and say, hey, can I get my 10 acres? Can I get my 5 acres? And then we have to go across. That'd be great. So I think everybody understands how we're getting there. They understood how the money, if the business wanted a donation of land, the county would not be doing that. That'd be coming from the ability of Blackstone to get the grant funds, pay the county, and then Blackstone can do whatever they want as far as incentives. All right. I think we're going to move on to comments from the board. I don't have my agenda anymore.
You good?
Mr. Andrew.
Want me to go first?
Sure.
I'm glad that the volunteers were here tonight and come back to us with your suggestions.
Yes, sir. Yes, we're going to that too.
We really appreciate y'all, me especially, because I've had to use your services a lot. And, we want to do what's right for y'all and to help you get more members and anything we can do within the budgetary restraints.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna try to do so. And the business that we waived the machinery tax, is that operational now?
Jacob.
Oh, Jacob, they're operational, but they haven't hired the 45 employees that they initially,
Okay,
Yes,
have they
sir.
hired some?
they've hired some.
Oh, good.
I-
Okay,
but I think
I had
I'm-
a question about that, that's why I just,
I think they're at or about 10 at the
okay,
most,
well, that's
but
good.
they're hiring and then people may leave or whatever, but he's not up to the hiring standard
Okay,
that we initially discussed.
okay, well, good.
So
At
he'll
least
be-
it's-
so he'll
it's
be-
moving.
So he'll be material tools if he doesn't.
He'll pay machinery and tools if he doesn't meet the standards, I understand.
I'm good.
Miss Norton?
Just excited to be working with Buddy and all the EMS and fire departments. And it's a work in progress, but we're doing something that has never been done before. And we're going into uncharted waters, but we're trying hard to recognize everybody and to be able to provide a service that is much needed. Also wanted to call attention, if you have a chance, go and watch June 9th's, Town Council, Crew Town Council, YouTube. They talked about the town water project progress. There's a lot of movement there with the new, water and how they're gonna finance it and how it's gonna impact community. But it's a lot going on in the town of Crew. There's some other positive things going on. So I'd like to call attention to that.
Mr. Toth?
Thank you for remembering me, Mr. Chairman.
That's why I did it, I had to look at it.
Nick Bowles is very informational on helping the taxpayers out a whole lot with the, a small really increase to the building permit fee. As always, a lot of respect to the volunteers and appreciation to them for being, for every citizen of the county, and even in some cases, the adjacent counties when they need them. So, the only comment I would probably like to make is maybe a motion to adjourn.
He needs to talk.
Oh, I'm
You're
sorry.
not gonna let me
I'm
say. You can now run 60 mile an hour across the Route 46 bridge.
Yes.
I
I
saw
was
the
mighty
picture.
able to cross
I saw
that
the
thing, and I
picture.
ate on the other side of it today.
So she's open. All the citizens need to know that. I'm sure the folks that have been commuting around that thing are appreciative. Thanks for a good discussion tonight, and we'll just keep doing the best we can for our citizens. Now I'll take that motion.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Ah.
Mr. Bowen, feel
Buddy, I
better?
got a good meal at that text message today. I told my wife, I said, "There you go, let's go over there and eat."
Hey, guys, that was,
Oh,
good to
man.
you. I thought, Philip, I thought I saw you this morning. I walked across it, saying you were married. Celebrate with us. Yeah,